steelhead in the saltwater. Did you guys know that you can do this? But we're gonna break this down, exactly what to do, how to use, where to go, the whole gamut. We're gonna cover it, so stick tuned. Because these steelhead, whether they're winter runs or summer runs, are going through Puget Sound and right by these beaches pretty much every day. So it's an opportunity that has kind of got lost in the shuffle over the years. Back in the 90s, honestly, this was one of the most popular fisheries to do when everything else was shut down or you were in between runs of fish. You could come out here in the saltwater, be shoulder to shoulder with your best buddies, and everyone's hooking fish. Now, it's different back then as well, the amount of fish that we had returning, but it still is really good this time of the year. It's March right now. You got a lot of wild fish coming back for our north end rivers, but there's also the opportunity from early hatchery summer run steelhead and some other fish as well. So you never know what you're going to get, but it's an awesome chance just to do something different. The gear is about as simple as you need. Whatever steelhead and salmon gear you already have is going to work. 9.5 to 10 foot casting or spinning rod, 15-pound test main line. I got an Garcia 501c3, the old classic standby, and a 10-foot rod. This is what I use pretty much for a majority of my winter steelhead drift fishing and in this kind of application as well. Really works well, and you're pairing up, like I said, 15 to 20-pound main line. These fish are not shy, and you have the chance, honestly, of hooking a 20-pound steelhead in the saltwater when they are as fresh, feisty, and hot as can be. So I'm gonna make sure my gear is ready and prepared because these strikes are savage. They're right at your rod tip half the time, and you can see the fish coming. So that makes it one of the most exciting things. Now, these steelhead really love an assortment of gear, right? But the most classic, well-known is the old Whidbey Island Special. It's a double glow gold star skirt. I'll show everything here, exactly what this all is. A couple beads, a few barbless Gamakatsu hooks, so you don't have to worry about crimping your barbs, but everything is barbless here in Puget Sound, and everything is catch and release on wild fish unless you get a hatchery. You can keep the hatchery steelhead. But spin and glow, I got about 3 feet of leader to just a really solid snap swivel, and then my weight. Now the weights can vary. You can go cannonballs, you can go whatever you feel most comfortable with, but I came across this rigging online for something back in the day. If you recall, it used to be pencil lead shoved into some surgical tubing, and that's pretty much what everybody used. Well, that does still work. There's nothing wrong with that, but these trolling sinkers can be absolutely phenomenal. And I pour my own, so I have them from 1/2 ounce all the way up to 2 ounces with me in my bag, and it really makes it easy because it's just a quick snap. You're changing weight. Like today, it's a little bit breezy, so you can easily change to the conditions or current that you're having and be able to still fish. And you have really good bottom contact with this to be able to keep your bait in the zone. Really is important with all this that you guys fish the gear to your feet. Like, look, seriously, I don't have waders on. This is one of the best parts of doing this. I just have rubber boots. The rubber boots is all you need for most of these beaches, because a high tide situation like we have today, even a low tide, you want some current movement. These fish are going to be pushing close to shore, chasing squid, chasing sand shrimp and other bait. These steelhead are aggressive, so you putting something super flashy in the water that's going to get their attention is really going to be successful. Let's check out the bait stop right here, and I'll put one together for you. The classic beach rig is right what you see here. A size 4 spinning glow, a double glow silver horde skirt, a corky, some beads, and a barbless batch of hooks. It resembles sand shrimp and a lot of the other food sources those steelhead are feeding on truly right near the shoreline. The spin and glow gives it a great wobble in the water. The tentacle skirts flare, and it really gives you a great action to fish. The rig itself is only 3 foot long, all the way down to a swivel, with a 3/4 to an ounce of lead on one of these trolling sinkers. Very simple to do, to make, but deadly effective on the right conditions. So I wanted to show you the old school way of how to make one of these setups, as well as a new school way that I think will also be very successful with some wicked lures. We're looking at these first real quick on how to set up your own, and then we'll dive into the wicked option. We first got to start with hooks. And I really think Gamakatsu has a great option for any angler, especially in our Puget Sound region of saltwater, where we have to have barbless hooks. You can get these already barbless, don't have to worry about pinching anything, and it's easy to go from there. You need a good fluorocarbon line. Around 20-pound test is a great idea because of the fact that you're near potentially abrasive shoreline. You also want this gear to lay flat out in the water. It makes it nice to be able to have a little bit heavier line for your leader's sake. Now what we're going to do is just a simple bait loop knot where you thread your line through. I do 10 wraps. Then you take your tag end and you're going to push that back through the eye, which then creates your loop. That loop then now takes with your other hand, spins over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to wet that tag in just a little bit so it doesn't burn the line as you tighten it up. I take my tag in, cut that off. And now I have my first hook ready to go. Okay? Now, take your favorite beads. This helps to allow for the hook spacing as well as everything to lay directly flat. I like a mixture here of UV and glow beads. So you can use whatever you like to do. The UV and glow, I think, adds potentially a little bit of help on nose fish attraction. But you never know. So 2-aught hook here on the bottom. There's our beads. If you have a 3-aught hook for the top, it's not a bad thing to have a little bit larger, just to help with getting a good hook set on these fish. But we're going to now set this up to double knot in our second bait loop. Same process, 10 wraps. Back on through. Now I have to loop it up and over the hook. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we got our hooks now set up, spaced out. Throw a couple more beads on the top here. This is more your spacing for the next important step. Right? You can go a corky or you can go a cheater. I like the Corky because it flares a little bit more on the head. But that's straightforward. All you have to do to tie this up. Then you can pick from your double skirts. The orange and glow, very popular, as is the straight pink and classic straight orange. There is a straight UV as well. I've had these for 20 years now. Shows you some how well they hold up. We can do one. That's just the pink. Okay, now you're gonna thread this up through the bottom, like so. The double skirt, because it has double skirt material, just gotta make sure everything gets situated. I like to kind of flare it around, make sure no legs get caught. But if you do the spacing right, as you can see, these hooks are right there at the bottom, ready to go. Now, one little trick I have found, these little spacer beads from Gold Star are a phenomenal little way, because it fits right on the top here, acts like a bearing for your spinning glow. Spinning glows here, as you can see from Yakima Bait, these are number 4s. Come in a variety of sizes and colors. The classic that we always used growing up doing this was the chartreuse orange and white wings. And granted, again, what's really cool, this is all the same steelheading gear that I was using 20 years ago doing this. Now, newer, you have some really cool colored spinning glows. You can get the fancy multi-toned, different wings. You can get chartreuse bodies. Yakima Bait has some amazing colors and options for the angler based upon their conditions. But I think a lot of what you're going to see off the beach that does well is contrast. So that's what you see here with these 2 different rigs we just made. A lot of contrast. Now, we've got that together. You're going to need a good swivel. I like these because this is like the classic drift fishing rig. It's pretty much what we're making. We're going to take this as a number 3 swivel. Going to tie ourselves a quick ward knot. Always make sure to wet your knots. And now your main line can tie right to this swivel here, and you have this to attach your weight. So again, float weight. These work nice because these drag along the bottom, stir it up. Looks like a sand shrimp or another piece of bait scurrying away. And you're now fishing. That is old school method of how we used to do this. But when I say new school, I really think we can start looking at something like a wicked lure. Especially with the introduction of this new orange. These 2 colors right here scream beach fishing for steelhead. Very similar to the same rigging setup here that we just built and have done. But you now have a spinner blade that's going to create a little bit more action for you. And better yet, for a flotation on a Wicked Lures has their own, these back trolling floats. I really think if you put that 2.5 feet up the line, you can really help yourself out by allowing that rig to be floating off the bottom just as those spinning glows do. or you can even throw a couple of these cheaters inside of the wicked to obtain the same deal. But that's the basic rigging of how to get beach fishing for steelhead started. Couple of these squid skirts, couple spinning glows, barbless hooks, and we're off to go now chase some fish from the beach. Some people like to use shrimp, right? But honestly, it's messy. It falls off. It's not going to be super crazy to stay on. Get yourself a little bit of good thick scent. You can shove that up inside of your squid skirt. I like this glow Lunker Lotion in the shrimp flavor. It's what they're eating, but that glow helps in the early morning or low light conditions you may be out doing and really help you out. So scent is a must-have in some form or other. And again, you're gonna get some of these fish that'll nose right up to your bait, and having a little bit extra to coax them into it. It's a fight or flight. You only have so much room before these fish have to commit, and they're gonna be chasing some of these things literally as exciting as it could be right here up against the shore. So scent definitely can help you out. One of my favorite things to do. But it's not limited in gear, right, to just that Whidbey Island special. Things like wicked lures. You could even have some of the Roostertails, right? If you didn't know, Yakima bait make some bigger size Roostertails that can be thrown off the beaches, 1/2 ounce size. Really like those for silvers too. But you guys can play around with different colors, but the rigging is simple. The fishing is simple. You need minimal gear. Like I said, just some rubber boots, right? I'm out here just casual. I can fish an hour of this tide and not really have to worry too much about all the stuff I'm bringing with me. The scenery is amazing, and you have the chance truly to catch a 20-pound steelhead. So now that you got your gear, what the heck do you go? Puget Sound is huge. Well, there are a couple places to target that have a better chance to get one of these fish. And what I will say in my experience is that's North Puget Sound. Everything from Everett, Mukilteo, some of the Edmonds beaches, all the way to Whidbey Island. Whidbey Island, honestly, no kept secret, but probably one of the more popular areas because a majority of the fish that are migrating through come through Whidbey Island first. So if I had to pick a place, I'd pick Whidbey Island. If I had to pick a tide, I'd be picking high tide because you have most of everything pushed close to shore, but you can even get out, like I said, at low tide. Dependent on the beach and how it fishes, you'll find that to be successful. High tide, an hour before, an hour after is going to give you the most tidal movement. You can look for current seams. You can see right behind me, I got a feeder creek coming in, which is creating current this way, and I have the tide pushing the other direction. So you can get some current right in here that fish can come up into to find potentially the bait or find what they're trying to sit and hold. That all being said, to fish this is very straightforward. You're going to cast out, and if you have enough current, you can kind of let this drift through, almost like thinking of breaking down a river. With enough current, you will have very similar situations to fishing a river. And again, fish the gear all the way to your feet. So here's just one beach example that I wanted to show you. We have a creek mouth here coming in. You have a sloping drop off right there with rocks. Those fish will travel off this semi point here where the current seam ends up being and travel really close. You only need to cast 30-40 yards tops offshore, but bringing it all to your feet. Now the beaches off Whidbey Island may fish a little bit different or depend on where you're at. Some slope steeper, some have a little bit more of a plateau. So you guys got to figure out which beach is best for you. Sometimes it's trial and error, but the beauty of Puget Sound and what we have around us is an opportunity, something like this, that we get to do in our backyards and go chase these steelhead truly year round. It's March. You can catch these fish in November, December, January, February, March, April, all here off the beaches, and then come back around when these fish return for summer run steelhead. So don't ever count this out as a fishery. I definitely recommend you try it yourself and go get your next trophy. If there was one safety advice, watch out for seals and sea lions. No joke, you will see these guys come right up against the shoreline, either chasing fish or curious to what you're doing. Harbor seals, maybe not so scary, but those California sea lions or Stellar sea lions are not nice. And I would not want somebody to not be paying attention. We had these things come right up to the edge of the beach, as you'll see here in the picture, right with where we were all fishing. All the kids were there. They are curious, but they are also extremely nasty. So please watch out for those. So if you guys put all these pieces together, you might be able to stumble upon an adventure that not only is worth doing in this kind of off-season time, you're getting out enjoying the beauty of God's country, but you also have a chance, and I keep saying it, to hook an absolute trophy of a fish. These steelhead are phenomenal as they are in the river, but even better in the salt. You're getting them at their peak performance, peak energy, peak health. It's amazing to see what these things can do, and I really hope you guys can get out and enjoy something that's kind of been forgotten. Take care, guys. We'll catch you in the water next time. Fish on!